I mean, there's avenues everywhere to get noticed and to get that kind of attention that you need to move up in the world. And I mean, it's like you said, there's no one telling you can't. You just have to, if you have the passion for it, go for it. Don't let anyone else tell you that you can't. Don't let anyone sway you from what you want to do.
Yo, what's up? Welcome back to Bindlism, a philosophy to a self-sufficient lifestyle. We introduce you to the man of the hour, Dalton Dobson. He's an artist, photographer, and automobile enthusiast. A few of his creative roles consist of creating content for a plant-based recipe cookbook, doing freelance wedding photography, and being the photographer for Apex Automotive magazine. We had the opportunity to talk to him about his life story and all the trials and tribulations he's went through to get to where he's at today. Dalton's honest and genuine perspective gives us insight into what it's like to live life fighting for your passions. He's a small-town kid from Phoenix, New York with big dreams. It was a breath of fresh air to have this open conversation with him to talk about his personal development. We hope you enjoy. So first off, thanks for coming on by.
Of course.
We're at the Syracuse Co-works here with Dalton Dobson. So I was interested in interviewing you for this podcast because I knew of you in high school.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually know you.
Right.
But I always saw you from afar, and you always had this unique style to you, and you're always kind of like doing your own thing.
Yep.
You know, just being independent and living life on your own terms kind of thing. And that's what this podcast is all about, is authenticity, living your life the way that is authentic to yourself.
Gotcha.
And being on the journey to becoming self-made, like being able to be independent financially, psychologically, and just being able to be your own person in this kind of sense.
Yeah.
So first off, we'll start off by introducing you. So if you want, I don't know if you have anything prepared. Do you want to just give us a little intro?
Yeah.
It can be super brief, long, whatever.
So my name's Dalton Dobson. I'm a photographer. My day job is working at a parts store, and at night I'm usually face first on my computer doing editing and anything I can get my hands on in the photo world. I'm also working on a book with a group of friends from recess. We all are making a 50 recipe book called Forget About It, or Forget About It. Say it right. It's
Forget About It?
Yep.
Okay.
It's 50 recipes of vegan, or that are all vegan, and it's also giving you tips on how to live a waste-free lifestyle. I bumped into them working there, and I was doing some food stuff or food photography for recess while I was working there, and a couple of the guys that worked there had interest in starting some kind of book and some kind of production company.
Okay.
So we set something up, did like 5 or 6 recipes, and just went for the Kickstarter and went for it.
So that's what your project has been so far?
Currently right now. Yep. And just as of today, we hit our funding, so the book is a go.
How much were you guys raising?
$5,000 for the printing.
Okay. And just to give us a little bit more in-depth understanding of what's going on, of context here. So, yeah, you want to like give us the links?
I'll pull up the link and everything because there's certain information that I cannot think of off the top of my head.
What got you first interested? What got you first connected to Recess Coffee?
Coincidentally, it was actually my girlfriend, Abby. She worked there as a baker, and at the time I was looking to get out of the automotive business as a day job. I wanted to mix it up a little bit, and they were looking for a driver to do all the runs around to all the local businesses delivering coffee. So I went there. We set something up, and I got the job as a late night driver, and was just delivering coffee all night.
Oh, nice.
And it wasn't a bad gig. It was enjoyable for the time being, but we went our separate ways, and I still keep in touch with them every once in a while, and I helped them out with a little bit of their social media stuff as well.
So you're not doing automotive at all at this point?
At this point, I'm back into the automotive business, just working that as a day job. I'm the technical term is the commercial parts pro at Advanced Auto Parts. So I handle all the shop side.
Do you know Paul Boone?
Oh yeah, I work with him. So
shout out to Paul Boone.
Yep. Yeah, know him real well.
Yeah, he works over there. Just wondering.
Yeah, it's a fun
small
job.
world.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So now are you full time in this project?
So it's kind of a weekend thing. We set up days where we shoot recipes, and we'll usually do like 5 or 6 recipes. There's usually like 3 or 4 of us that are all there, and we'll progressively make the recipes throughout the day, and then we'll photograph them, and go to the next one, photograph that one, and we'll bring decorations for everything, so all the different dishes look all individually shot. They're not just on one table and everything.
So this is recipe ideas from recess?
Nope. It's just from a group of friends that we basically all met working at that place. Most of the people that work there now are no longer part of them.
Did you make some of the recipes?
I didn't. I just shoot. So I just handle all the photography end. And
that's cool.
There's another person who handled the production end for our Kickstarter video.
So it's not actually through Recess Coffee itself?
No,
it's just like kind of underground within.
Right. Coincidentally, we all just met there and made the connections and branched off from it.
And how much were you saying you were raising for the Kickstarter?
So we raised $5,000, and we're a little bit past that now, but that's just all going to go towards the production of the book itself.
Like publishing.
Yep, all
media,
the publishing. So we're doing
we're
doing an ebook, an actual physical copy, and then there's a bunch of little bonus goodies that were in there as well.
And you have to buy the ebook too. Once it's released.
Yep. So you can either get the ebook for a certain amount, or pay a little bit more, and you can get an actual physical copy of it.
Cool.
But it's
Do you want to give us the plug?
Yeah.
You able to find anything?
If I can actually pull it up on my phone here.
Oh, plant-based.
Yep.
Nice.
It's all plant-based recipes, minimal waste cookbook.
Super cool. We had someone star on the podcast that was into like plant-based recipes, and her name was Alexandra Scheitzman. She's local here, and she actually works out of the Co-Works. And that's her thing too. So maybe you guys could get connected.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if that would help at all as far as like distribution with your book.
It's totally possible because we connected out and reached out to a lot of local businesses and got backed by a few. Sweet Praxis is one that came to mind instantly because they backed us on the last couple of weeks. And we connected with a couple other creatives and a couple other, we went all over the place. We connected with a couple of businesses, some creatives, a couple of food blogs, and a lot of those people are actually featuring their own little recipes in the book too.
Oh, cool.
So it's kind of like at this point, it's just a collaborative effort.
That's what this is all about, really.
Definitely.
You know, especially with the artists locally.
Yeah, and it was fun because it's a little bit out of my comfort zone because most of the stuff I handle is like automotive photography or product shots. So if the whole culinary photography world is completely just alien to me. So I was just like, let's go for it and see how it goes.
Yeah. It's the only way you can learn,
exactly.
Right? Just by doing.
So that was a lot of fun.
What did you do to learn?
Just in photography in general? Or?
No. Well, yeah, we could get into that a little bit, but just like the recipe shooting specifically.
Oh, like the actual culinary photography itself. I just watched a lot of just videos online and
like YouTube videos and stuff.
YouTube, Instagram, just paying attention to certain well-known food photographers and paid attention to the way they lit things and all the decorations and extras that they had around and how they filled the frames, just paying attention to how people are doing it.
Nowadays you can learn anything on the internet.
Yep.
That's the cool thing about it, you know?
Yeah.
Especially with photography. There's like a huge network on YouTube and like different forums, blogs, talking about all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
Like right now, I'm looking into getting a videography, a camera for videography, but specifically with like wildlife or nature photography kind of stuff. And it's just as simple as Googling it, and you can find the information.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and seeing what people are shooting with, and you can, as long as you do the homework, you're set.
Yeah, definitely. So, to give us a little background about you, so Dalton Dobson, you came from where? Hometown?
Phoenix.
Phoenix, New York?
Yep. Good old Phoenix.
Good old Phoenix. That's where I went to high school as well. So, so coming out of high school, interested about that. Well, first, where did you go to high school?
I obviously went to JCB in Phoenix.
So coming out of high school, did you have plans as far as what you were doing, where you were going?
For the most part, I mean, I went towards the last couple of years in high school, I got really tied into photography. Or was in the darkroom constantly doing film, and that was like, it was second nature at that point. And I played around with a lot of different types and different medias and everything. And after that, I was like, I just wanted to stick with that.
So in high school, that was when the passion, like, so to speak, the light got kindled.
Yep,
the
that was when the spark popped up. So I'd always played around with cameras a little bit when I was younger. When I was a kid, my mom would always give me like a disposable camera anytime we'd go on a camping trip or something like that. And I'd run around like a maniac taking photos.
How old were you?
Oh man, this was probably when I was probably under 10. And then I just progressively evolved into something else. I got my first like digital camera back in middle school, and I always played around with that a little bit. And then once high school hit, I got way more in depth into film and digital and all that stuff.
So all throughout, would you say, growing up, you were always, you had your hands on a camera, like experimenting?
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple other hobbies, like I skateboarded, obviously snowboarding, good old ski club. But yeah, I mean, photo was kind of the one thing that stuck with me the most, and it was one thing I knew that a lot of people have found success in, and it was something that was, at that point, it was very relevant. Now everyone runs around with a phone that's got a camera on it. And
yeah, definitely. Did you see that?
A little bit.
Future thinking?
I mean, at that point when, camera phones came out and everyone was using them, and at that point, like, digital photography was starting to pop up like crazy. Film was starting to fade out a little bit. So it was it made sense. And
did you, now interested again, because we're all like digital age, did you see the transition from film to more digital? Were you in that era?
A little bit, yeah. That was back in like, I mean, they phased it out of our schools around the time that we all graduated. Because at that point, they were condensing down the dark rooms and everything. Even when I went to college, which I'll explain later, but when I went to college, after I left college, they dumbed down all the film stuff there. I don't know if the dark room's still there, but I know they were thinking about deleting all of the film stuff out of that school.
That's an interesting idea. Like, did it make it easier? I mean, like, for me as a consumer, it made going out and taking photos and video so much easier. But from your standpoint, coming from the, ground up.
Yeah, it's tough because there's a lot of things you can learn from shooting film. I mean, for one thing, you only get so many shots on one roll of film. So I mean, most of them you get 24 shots. So you really, any kind of shot that you're taking, you're thinking a lot of.
So now you're just blind.
Right, now you're just not even thinking about it. And on top of that, you take a shot, you can see how you're doing. Where versus film, you were taking a shot, and it didn't. Once you took the shot, you didn't know until you developed the film.
Now people just take it for granted.
Right.
They don't even think about that.
So you learn a little bit. You learn a lot shooting film because you have to kind of think ahead. Like, oh, the lighting all changed. Now you have to imagine how it's going to look.
You can't account for it.
Right.
Because you can't see it.
So it gets you to think ahead a lot and kind of it teaches you how to understand exposure and lighting a lot.
So would you say having that background, coming from that understanding of the trials and tribulations, of going through film, would you say that made you a better photographer now?
Definitely. If I didn't go to school and have the understanding of like exposure and lighting and all that stuff, I wouldn't be where I am today. Because moving a little bit forward in life, when I went to OCC for photography, didn't graduate with there, but I took a bunch of classes and then went my separate ways 2 years through. One of my main classes was studio and lighting, and it's strictly a class based.
Where did you go
lighting.
That was in college?
Yep, that was at OCC.
Oh, okay.
And
which is local for anyone out there in Syracuse.
But taking that class, not only that class broke me down. When I originally went to college, I had like this ego to me, and it did
coming from little town Phoenix.
Right, exactly. So going there, I had a little bit of an ego, and like that was the final class that just broke me, and I was like, shit, I'm not as good as I think I am.
And that was an intro class?
It wasn't an intro class. That was my second year.
Oh, okay.
So like the first classes were all like
right,
because
it's a 2-year school.
Yep. So the first year classes weren't too bad. They were relatively easy, and it was kind of stuff that I already knew, so it was pretty simple. And then I took that second year of classes in studio lighting. The professor there, he's an awesome guy. His name is Jim Shersey, and he runs a studio out here called Shersey Studios. And he's a super critical guy, but not only is he super critical, he's not afraid to tell you what's wrong in your photo and just leave it at that. He won't tell you what's good in it.
Do you remember the worst experience you had?
Oh, man. He was always, like I said, he's always not afraid to tell you what was wrong. So just the buildup, because we would always have critiques anytime we did a project. Right. So we would go to those critiques, and like just the buildup of showing the photo, I'm like, oh man, he's gonna tear this thing apart. So it was literally just like every single class was torture.
And he was that way for everyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of people that were tense about it, but in the end of it, I mean, I kind of broke down halfway through his class, and I was like, man, I second guessed myself a lot. I wasn't sure if I was going to be that good. Mm-hmm. And then after I kind of broke down, I started like really paying attention to the lighting and everything else, and started getting it.
So you needed to have that break,
right?
Of like
exactly.
Ego.
Yep. So
and that when you're like, oh, now I need to learn.
Yep, it kind of was like a little bit of a reality check, and I'm like, all right, I need to take a step back and kind of understand what's going on. So after that point, I started figuring out the light, like proper times to light, ways to light in a studio, and you kind of visualize things a lot better.
Now, when you're saying lighting, is that like the lighting around the objects? Or the scene that you're trying to take, mm-hmm. or like the flash of the camera?
No, lighting around the objects. So obviously lights everywhere. I mean, even in the room that we're in right now, there's lighting.
Yeah, so you could probably critique this. This is probably pretty shit.
Well, it's not a studio either, though. Or not a photo studio. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, you take into account like shadows, shadows, highlights, whites, blacks, and start thinking about it differently. Yeah. There's obviously if you're outside, there's certain, obviously you have sunrise, sunset, you have the midday where light and shadows are brutal. For most part, it's one of the worst times to shoot, but it's also depending on what you're shooting.
What is your favorite thing to shoot?
My favorite thing to shoot is automotive. I love shooting cars, motorsports, things like that.
Like the old school kind of cars?
Old and new, because
doesn't matter?
No, it doesn't matter. As long as it's interesting and it's got a story, I'm about it.
So you can tell a story through cars?
Yeah, I mean, so I work with a magazine called Apex Automotive magazine. It's a local based in the area.
Is that what you got into after college?
Yeah, a little bit. Like I was shooting cars for a while, and I connected with these guys, and they were running the magazine for a couple of years before I joined up. And it's all automotive journalism, and they seek out stories around the area for owners of cars and events and things like that, because there's car shows everywhere, but not everyone knows about them. So we're always connecting with people who have owned cars for like their entire life, and they might have crashed the car and rebuilt it, or it might have some kind of symbolism to them.
Oh, okay. So it's the people with the cars,
Right?
that you're telling the story of.
And I mean, you can tell the story of tell the story of the car without them in it. It's just when you pair those two together, it's significantly better.
Yeah, you have more of that like emotional impact because of it. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what art is.
Exactly.
So like, evoke the emotions of the person, you know, going through it.
Yeah, there's been a couple of tearjerker stories that I've
I'm
covered.
Sure. Definitely, especially if you're passionate for cars, you know? And there's someone talking about like, oh, crash this beautiful car. You're like, no.
Right. Yeah.
Feel your pain.
There'll be this car that's imported and it's not in the States, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I rolled that off a cliff, or I smashed it into a tree, and I'm like, why? So
to like backstep a couple, go earlier into your story. I'm interested into what would you say the thing that kindled that passion when you first got, like, what was about photography that got you initially interested into it?
I gotta think about this one for a second. It was more or less just seeing what other people could do in it. I mean, certain photographers and certain photos that you see, just the single photo can tell a huge story.
So, like, the inspiration you got from seeing other photographers work?
Yep.
Okay, so given that, do you have any specific people that you can think of that inspired you?
Yeah.
Growing up?
Growing up, it wasn't really any kind of people. It was just certain photos I would see, or certain people. Actually, even like one of the things that kind of got me a little bit more into photo was my senior photo shoot, and seeing someone just even take photos of myself and seeing how they worked. And at that point, it was Bridget Bador who was doing all the senior photos at school. So seeing her work and kind of seeing how they all progressed and the stuff that they would come up with kind of lit a spark. And
so it wasn't until the very end, like you were saying?
Yeah, just about. It was in my like senior, or right before my senior year, I kind of got the idea of wanting to actually go full swing at photo.
And now, was this like a life goal kind of thing, or was it like, oh, this is something, like I'll just go to college and see how it is?
At that point, it wasn't really a life goal. It was just I had a major interest in it, and I mean, at that point, everyone was freaking out about going to some kind of college or going to school. So I was like, you know what, I'll ride this out and see where it goes. I had the interest in it, and I had the equipment, so I was like, well, I might as well go for it and see where I end up.
Yeah, definitely. You never know, you know, and it's something you can constantly grow in.
Exactly.
As opposed to like working as a cashier at like I don't know, Home Depot or something. You can't grow too much in that. So that's the cool thing about photography.
Yep.
And the thing is, like, at first glance with photography, you might not think that you can grow in it because it's you just take this, especially with digital. Like, I feel like before I put my opinion in this, have you ever gotten that feedback? I was like, oh, it's just a camera, you just shoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what are your thoughts about that?
You know what? I get it. It's a lot of people think that it's a very simple art and it doesn't take much skill. But I mean, you have to put that camera in that person's hand and be like, let's see how you do it.
Guide it, yeah.
And they're not going to necessarily be terrible. There's some people that could pop a camera in their hand and be great, but like you have to understand it before you knock it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Because if you don't understand it, then you don't know the context of it.
Right.
And I mean, at that point, you're just being judgmental.
Exactly. So I mean, there's some opinions that aren't going to really matter, but if there's someone, like I always like hearing how people feel about like a certain medium, or it doesn't even have to be photo related. It can be, I don't know, photo versus drawing, or like any of the arts. They're all going to have opinions, and there's going to be some people that love them and some people that hate them. You can't change everyone.
Yeah, definitely. It's just preference. It could be just preference at the end of the day.
Yeah, like there's a couple of my friends that have zero interest in art and photo and any of that stuff. And it's just, and like the opinions is actually something that strays away from it.
Like the stereotype or like the preconceived ideas about it.
Just like the judgment and like the fact that, I'm trying to remember what one of my buddies said. Like he always enjoyed the work I did, but he knew of some people that didn't. And he couldn't stand the fact that that's how some people think. And it turned into this debate with a couple of his buddies, and he
Just fizzled out.
Right.
Did he start initially trying to get into photography?
He never really had the interest in it, but he always appreciated it. But like that judgment made it so I don't think he would ever really try it, which is kind of shitty. It sucks to kind of see that.
How did you face conflict, the judgment,
I mean, obviously with photo, there's a lot of critiquing, and some of that might be positive, some of it might be negative. You kind of have to give and take.
like roll with the punches?
Right. There's going to be some people that hate your work, and that's okay. And there's going to be some other people that love your work, and that's awesome.
And it could be the same work.
Right, exactly. So I mean, there's some stuff that people are just going to have a blind hatred for and not say anything constructive. And then there's the people that like the work, but they might see something that, like somewhere it can be improved or anything. And like, that's true critiquing. That's the way that most photographers are brought up. You're supposed to look at the photos, say or bring up what you like. And then if you see something that maybe they need to improve on, suggest it, but don't just down talk the photo and completely say, oh, this is crap, and completely destroy it.
The interesting thing, the thing that I find interesting is it's not only just you're growing in your skill, but you're growing in your personal development as a human being through photography. Because if you're getting critiqued all the time, if you have naysayers, you're going to have to keep going and pushing through even with the adversity.
Yeah, you kind of got to roll with it. And I mean, it's, for me, like at the first couple of times where I heard like people knocking photos, it was kind of like that breaking point that I had. Like I never really got too much negative feedback, and then once I started getting it, it really beat me up for a while. And then after a certain point, I kind of got used to it, and I was like, you know what, I'm like, I gotta start listening to this and see, like, filter out what's the stuff, the truth, what I need to improve on. And I mean, now anytime someone could give me negative feedback or positive feedback, I'll listen to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, you grew from it.
Right,
you didn't let it just destroy you.
Yeah, I mean, that's all part of it.
Yeah. And even though temporarily did hurt you, got you down, you keep going. Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's super cool. All right, so we're now at the point of you finishing up with college. You'd say that was like probably the highlight of college as far as photography goes, like that breaking point and like regaining.
Yeah, kind of gaining a little bit of more of
perspective.
Perspective and a little bit of control on things. Yeah, I mean, after that class, I think I took 2 more classes after that where there were just some more studio work. And after that, I actually left school. I never finished and never got my degree because I felt...
You like dropped out early?
Yeah, I dropped out early. I never actually got my diploma.
Okay.
Or degree, not diploma.
What made you stop going?
If
you only had couple months left, right?
Not necessarily. I had kind of jumped in and out of college for a short bit.
Oh, okay.
But that was more of a financial problem than anything. So I took a little bit of a break.
It's fucking expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So I took a little bit of a break to save up some money and be able to pay for the rest. But no, I actually dropped out because I wanted to learn more by doing. Most of the stuff and most of the projects that you got kind of encourage you to be in the studio and work with other photographers. I mean, you could work with friends, but I always found myself going back to the studio and seeing the people that I knew and the people I was comfortable with, and not like branching out and doing things out of the ordinary. So I kind of felt that I needed to just kind of toss myself into the fire and go for it.
In the real world.
Right, exactly. And I mean, that was another culture shock, or another shock moment in my life where I was kind of like, okay, it's not the same as what I'm doing in school. And
so you dropped out not because it was too hard or
no,
difficult.
it wasn't hard or anything. It was just I felt like I needed to learn in a different direction.
And like pursue instead of just like be on the defense.
Exactly. So it was just more of like a personal decision, and I talked to a few professors about it, and I actually had a couple of them back, like, support it, and I was like, all right, well, this is what I'm going to do.
That's all you needed, you know?
Yeah,
and it's like kind of in you, like if it's like eating away at you, and you're like, I got to do this.
Yeah.
You got to do it. Or else you might live with regret, you know?
Exactly.
What did you do after college?
So after college, I obviously worked the day jobs and all that stuff, but I ended up connecting with a previous coworker of mine, and realized he actually ended up getting into the photo world as well, and he was handling wedding photography.
Okay.
So we connected. He said that he was always looking for a second shooter, so I told him that I was completely open and all for it, and I'm still doing weddings off and on with him today. And his name is Ron Powers. He runs a page called Powers Images. Awesome wedding photographer, handles portraits and all the things around that world.
Did you get that set up before quitting school?
Nope. I quit school and just worked a couple of day jobs here and there. And while I was doing that, I was going home and figuring out ways to make money in the photo world. I didn't really leave with any connections when I dropped out of school, which was kind of crappy and left me dry for a little bit. And then I have connected with Ron and a few other photographers and got jobs here and there. But for the most part, on top of that, I was also doing a lot of work for free.
Yeah, get your name out there.
Yeah, getting my name out there and getting the experience, and just that. I mean, that's also the way you learn, is just by doing. So I did all the wedding photography with Ron, got a ton of experience in not only working with people, but working at such a fast pace, because with weddings you get one shot of the kiss or like any of the major events, so you got to work fast. And
what was that like, your first time?
Terrifying. It was pretty scary at first. Luckily, I wasn't the primary shooter, so most of the time I could rely on Ron to get the shots, and if I got the shots, then it would just be extra content for us.
Oh, okay.
And
well, that makes you have a little bit less pressure on
right,
yourself.
there was a little bit less pressure, but he never really told me that. So it was always like, I've got to get this shot, you got to get this shot. So there was always a lot of pressure on that, which was terrifying at first.
But it could be a good thing, because then you took it more serious.
Exactly. So it worked out at the end. And I also got a lot more creative about the way I shot things. I ended up, the way he described it is I always paid attention a lot more to the details. So, like, you get, like, the flowers or certain setups of, like, the venues or just anything that you wouldn't really think of or primarily see, but you might see a photo of it and be like, oh, I forgot, or I remember those, or...
Would you bring the, what do they call them? The sets? The like, different... You're talking about, like, the structures at the wedding?
Right, like, all the decorations that would be, like, at the wedding, like, for an example, like the walkway during the ceremony, you would see like flowers decorated all the way down the pews, or...
Oh, okay. So you would utilize the environment that's already there.
Right.
Instead of not just like bringing in stuff.
Yeah, I usually never really brought anything with me. I rarely used props. I'd always pay attention to what was around me and catch little things like that. And that worked out hand in hand, because he would catch a couple of those, but he would pay attention more to the people, where I'd pay attention to more of like the static objects and everything around.
Interesting. That's cool how you like develop your own style with it.
Yeah.
And would you say that that type of style is carried over in your work today?
Yeah, I mean, even with the like automotive work and obviously the culinary stuff that I've been doing recently, I'll take my primary shots of what I need to get, and then I'm always finding myself taking photos of, like with the food, certain angles that make like add a little bit of shine into like a bowl of soup, or you see steam coming off of like some bread or anything like that. And then with automotive stuff, you see certain body lines or certain angles, like shooting down the fender or down the sides of the cars or getting real low.
So what kind of element does that give the shot?
Getting down real low?
No, like all of it.
Oh,
like the style.
Well, in the car world, I mean, when you buy a car that you like, usually there's certain things that you always look at on the car that you like. Like going back to like one of my older cars that I had, it was an 88 Nissan 200SX, and it was real wide, but it was a hatchback, so it had this real aggressive back end to it. And you look at it in certain angles, and it had, just for me, it always stuck out, and you could show me one of those cars from like 2 miles away, and I'd instantly know what it is. So you see those little details, and it
so you would try to highlight those kind of details?
Yeah.
Then? Okay. And now, this style, is it something that like organically forms over the years?
Yeah, I'd say so. Okay. It wasn't anything I really like learned or paid attention to. It was just how I shot.
And now it's second nature, which is cool. Yeah. Very cool. So where are we at?
I went on leaving school and...
Oh yeah, Wedding World.
Yeah, Wedding World.
That was very scary, but then you ended up honing the skills. Do you feel a lot more... How do you feel about it now, going into a shoot?
Definitely feel a lot more confident. I mean, now I go into a shoot and I'm not stressed about it or terrified at all. And it's just like going to another day at work. Just...
Like pretty standard?
Yeah, bowl out the camera and go to town.
And everyone does wedding photography a little bit different. What would you say you said your style is? You try to like capture the environment and stuff like that. So is that something you are thoughtful about before going into it now? Or is it just like...
Yeah, I guess a little bit, because there's always... almost every single wedding always has like a few little things that are always there. So you always have like the flowers and all the cake decorations. Like cake detail shots are always a major thing for me.
Okay. And that's something you like spec out beforehand?
For the most part, I always like kind of think about them a little bit.
Okay. So got out of school, started doing wedding photography. Does that bring us to where you're at right now? Or was there a lot of time in between then?
Just about. I mean, I did weddings for a long time, and
how long did you do it for?
It was about 3 or 4 years, and I mean, I still do one here and there.
Okay. But now, like a lot less than what you
Correct.
Used to do.
Yeah, because I used to try and get weddings at least 2 or 3 times a month. I did very fewly. I shot as a primary photographer. I was always the second shooter. I always felt way more comfortable being the second shooter than the primary shooter. I had no problem shooting my own wedding, but just the responsibility of the second shooter and getting those kind of shots felt way more natural and way more comfortable to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have a different style that might complement being a secondary.
Right, exactly.
Better, because you're trying to get more of the artistic shots, would you say? Or like different angles. Whereas like I feel like the primary shooter would be the one trying to capture the people itself.
Right, yeah. It's definitely the better way to put it.
Okay, so after that, you got into the automotive world. And how did you get linked up into that?
So I always had, the other hobby was getting into cars and everything like that. Most of my life, I've always had cars around me or motorcycles or anything like that. So growing up, I was also not only a photographer, but I also was a little bit of a gearhead. So they kind of went hand in hand. Like I've always played around with cars, and I always had friends who have been playing around with cars, and it was just kind of like the secondary hobby. So there's 2 halves of the story.
And that's a whole different story.
That's a whole different realm. I mean, that's been staying strictly as a hobby, other than like my main focus profession.
Is photography?
Yep.
Okay. What would you say you have more of a passion for?
That's hard. Definitely photography, because I definitely strive to make more moves in photography than I do in the automotive world. Automotive world, I've never really been a technician or like became a mechanic or anything like that. I've always had friends that have, but I never really had any interest in working in the service world at all.
How come?
Oh man, it's tough, because I've watched a lot of my friends become technicians and seen them kind of find it not so fulfilling, and most of those people are now trying to get out of that profession. It really doesn't pay very much for what you do unless you lock yourself into like a master tech position at like a dealership where you can make a good couple of bucks.
So it's like taxing on the body?
Yeah, and it's real brutal on your body. I mean, you wreck your hands all day. You're always cut and bruised, and you're also exposing yourself to lots of nasty chemicals. And
yeah, definitely.
It's brutal. So I always enjoyed just doing it as a hobby, and I self-taught myself on basically everything I know in the automotive world.
Oh, so if you really wanted to, you could build up a car?
Mm-hmm.
Have you?
To an extent, I've thrown a little bit of suspension in the car that I have right now.
What are you driving right now?
Right now, I have a 85 Volvo 240 wagon.
Ooh.
And it's got coilovers in it and an exhaust and a couple little simple things. It's a daily driver, so it's nothing extravagant.
You drive it in the winter, too?
Yep. I drive it all year round, which is brutal out here.
Yeah, definitely. Which brings me to the next question. Do you do photography all year round?
I try to. And during the winter, it slows down a little bit. There's obviously not a ton of weddings or anything like that, but the saving grace this past year was getting into like culinary and product stuff, because I can do that all year round.
Yeah, that's true. It's indoors.
Mm-hmm.
Like weddings are usually outdoors.
Right.
Well, they can be.
Mm-hmm.
You got the churches and whatnot.
Yep.
So, to go back a little bit, I remember you talking about it. I just forget.
That's all good.
You got into the culinary how?
Culinary was with the connection of Recess, because at that point I was driving for them, and I was also part of the bakery. Their coffee processing area is has a bakery in it as well, so I'd always see all the baked goods being made and all that. Kind of had a little bit of interest in it, and on top of that, I wanted to throw photo into my profession a little bit there, and not just deliver coffee all day.
Yeah.
So
was that something you had to get out of your way to let them know?
In terms of like seeing if I wanted it, or see if they were interested in it?
In the photography, linking the two?
Yeah, I brought it up a couple of times, and I spoke with some management there, did a couple of small little shoots, and linked up with the person that was handling the social media at the time, and gave them some photos to run for promotions and their Instagram, their Facebook, and everything like that.
Yeah. Everything now is social media.
Right, exactly. So
need photos, better
content, helped all around.
And they just like had you hop on the team for that?
For a little bit, yeah. They'd always have like a certain special of the month. So I'd be like, cool, well, I'm gonna go to either location and get that, whatever that special is, and set it up somewhere, set up some photos around it. So I'd always give myself little projects, and
that's what it seems like. Like as far as photography goes, it's always like projects. It's never like a set thing.
Right. You always have to kind of introduce someone to it, because
be resourceful to it.
Yeah, you definitely have to be resourceful, especially around this area. There's not too many people. There's not too many specific like photography jobs, so you kind of have to. You have to grind for it. And
it's like temp work, kind of.
You have to find the people who are actually willing to pay for it.
How's that on you?
At least in like terms of like culinary, and even like in the grand scheme of like social media, there's a lot of people who want the great content for to use for Instagram, Facebook. Pick your poison of social media, or not poison of social media, but pick your area of social media. They always want the better content, but they won't necessarily want to pay for the photographer or anything like that. So you kind of have to kind of give them a few things and then
for free.
Right, you have to work for free a couple of times and then ask and be like, hey, this is something you want to continue if you pay so and so.
Okay, so a lot of it's just networking.
Right.
Just getting your name out there and
Yep.
Get your work seen, really.
Yep.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and like with Recess, I was doing little photos of either like coffee or one of the sandwich specials that I would have, and it was really fun to kind of get out of my shell a little bit and try handling food photography, because like I said, I never even thought about it at that point.
Yeah, you're constantly learning new skills.
And they enjoyed it because they never had anyone really shoot that professionally. So it worked hand in hand. And I mean, towards the end of it, it wasn't really something they were looking to pay fully. So we went our separate ways, and as I was leaving, I offered my services to see if that was something they wanted to do. Didn't work out, but I was like, all right, well, go to the next thing.
Well, why is that? They didn't want to keep you?
Well, at that point, I kind of didn't want to. I expressed that I didn't want to be a driver anymore, and I wanted, if there was something I wanted to be doing, it would be doing photo and social media and things along those lines. They didn't really have a position to fill that desire, so we went our separate ways.
Okay, and then, but at the same time, you were still linked with the people for the book?
Right, they all knew me because they all worked at the cafes, so they would see me delivering coffee or doing the shoots and things like that.
So that brings us to where you started off, right?
In terms of the book, yeah. And once I left there, I actually went to a high-end automotive shop and did a bunch of social media for them, handling like the photos and Instagram and Facebook and things like that. So that was a lot of fun.
What was that place called?
That place was Cansack Automotive. It's off of
local?
Yep, local area. And they specialize in like European and high-end cars. And
oh, nice.
So you get all the BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, Ferraris.
Is it dealership or?
It's
a shop.
Yeah, it's a automotive repair shop. So it's not just a dealership. They do sell cars there as well, though.
So you do the photography for them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how long did you do that for?
I did that for, I think it was like 6 or 7 months. And originally the position for that job was being a salesman as well. I expressed that I wasn't a great car salesman, so we tried to just fit the bill to just handle social media and the photos and everything like that. So for those
ended 6 up working out for you.
Right. So it was a lot of fun, and obviously this is a previous job as well, but I had the opportunity to work with a ton of awesome cars, be around a bunch of awesome people, and I still hold that connection. I still drop by there every while. They have a car show called Cars and Coffee at least once a month, and yeah, it was an awesome time.
That's one cool thing about photography from your story is that like it's always been with you. In your life seems like it's constantly changing, or like you have new ideas, new ventures, new jobs, whatever it may be. But like the photography is always able to stick with you, and like whatever you put yourself into, whatever environment you get into, you always have the photography to like be like the supporting thing to, whether it's financially, mentally.
Right. I'm always trying to incorporate it in anything I do.
And that's going to stick with you, you know, for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And hopefully it comes to a point where that's all I'll be doing.
And that's something you would want to do?
Yes.
All the time? How old are you?
Me? I am... Either 26 or 27. I'm blanking here.
I feel like after 21, you just kind of forget.
That's dude, exactly. Like after I hit 21, I was like, or no, it was actually after 25. 'Cause the only thing I had to look forward to when I turned 25 was like my car insurance dropping. I'm like, after that, I'm just like, nah, I don't even care anymore.
You gotta get your own insurance at 24, 25.
Yep.
That shit sucks.
Yep. So I'm 27.
Okay. Where were we? So. Now like we're up to present day, right? So thinking, and we usually get into this like with everyone that we're interviewing.
Yeah.
Also, Andy and I do this. Did you know?
Yep.
We both did. Okay. Andy's in Vermont right now.
Gotcha.
Shout out to Andy. He's doing his thing. He does podcasts out of Burlington.
Gotcha.
So we're trying to network this way.
Gotcha.
Like with the podcast, he's doing out there. So he just moved out. It's a good way for him to meet people.
Definitely
And get to know the area.
Mm-hmm.
But now moving forward, you said that you want to do this full time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any future plans?
Not down to a T. I mean, the professions of what I want to do specifically are always changing. I mean, and on top of that, the world of photography is always growing. And new things are popping up. Like there's photographers who are vloggers and YouTubers now, and just run things strictly off Instagram. And so I'm always looking for new things to do and ways to grow. And I mean, with that just grows how much I can shoot and what I feel comfortable in doing. So it's a forever changing thing and something that's forever growing.
So is it a little bit of like trying to balance the financials? Because obviously you need to survive.
Yeah,
you need money. And then just like using the photography in whatever avenue you go down.
Yeah, I mean, the what's the word I'm looking for? The dream would be to just be strictly a photographer, and like I would love to be like an automotive journalist and like a commercial photographer. And that's, I guess, in long-term goals, I definitely think being an automotive photographer would be my
dream job.
My dream job, yeah. There's a lot of automotive photographers I follow. Larry Chen. There's another guy who is his name is Mark. He runs handles the photography for Top Gear.
Oh, nice.
So like all those guys are people who are kind of like my idols, and I always watch what they're doing, and they're not only are they doing photo, they're doing video, they're going on all these crazy trips, so they're traveling constantly.
What does that take to get to that point?
I mean, networking is a huge thing. You have to be willing to travel for certain jobs and make the connections and work with all walks of people. I mean, most of like the few people that I watch, they're all automotive journalists. So not only do they shoot, but they also write. They work for some major companies that will send them to certain places. Like one of the guys I watch all the time, he's from California, but there's a huge race that goes on in Germany, and he'll fly out to Germany and shoot that. And next thing you know, he's down in Mexico shooting a Baja rally. Mm-hmm. So you got to be able to travel a lot. Is
that something you like doing?
Yeah, that's what I would love to do, but that's also a very long stretch. So it's going to take a lot of work, and it's definitely going to be a long-term goal.
Yeah, definitely. But it's something to always strive for.
Yep.
And you always have inspiration. Mm-hmm. That's another thing.
Definitely.
It's tough because like you want to be like financially stable.
Right, but that's not always going to be, that kind of job's not always going to be financially stable.
It's like anything that's, no, this is my opinion, but anything that's like artful or creative that is like inspiring or like that makes you dream and want to get out there in the world is like not financially stable at all.
Not always, no. And I mean, it's like one of those things where it's not always going to be, at first it's not going to be financially stable at all. You kind of have to grind and work really hard. I mean, even with the stuff you guys are doing here, I mean, you obviously can get like sponsors and things like that, but that's going to be something that's going to be down the road.
Yeah, definitely. We're just doing this for free right now.
Right, exactly.
Just to get the name out and
I mean,
network.
And I mean, that's where everyone's got to start. You kind of have to just do it for fun or do it for free and see where it's going to take you.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway is you got to love it.
Right.
Because if you don't, it's going to take like 5-10 years.
Right. And if you're trying to do it for money, you're going to either struggle or, I mean, you should be working to make something, but if you're just getting into it with the mindset that you're going to be a millionaire, it's going to be a real tough struggle to make it anywhere.
You're just going to fizzle out.
Right, exactly. You have to have the proper mindset and be willing to, I mean, eat shit. It's
literally.
Yep. It's going to take, well, I hope not literally, but
but get punched in the face.
Right.
Not literally, but
yeah, you have to be willing to work hard at it and take a few hits, and you're going to struggle, and it's always an adventure.
It's cool, though, that the opportunities are out there.
Mm-hmm.
You have social media now. That's huge.
Yeah.
But with that comes the competition. But at the same time, it gives you the entry point of... I'm not going to word this correctly. But it gives you an entry point into it where you have no, like, investment into it. You know what I mean? Like, well, you have to obviously buy the camera, and you have to... But after that, once you have it, you just get yourself out there, and you're able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's also photographers that started off shooting on an iPhone or, like, an Android phone, like, just shooting camera photography, and just getting real creative with it, and just finding a way to stand out. Yeah.
And, like, social media definitely, like, levels the playing field at this point. It's cool. It's like a double-edged sword, though, at the same time.
Yeah, in some aspects, because there's so much going on Instagram and Facebook or wherever you're posting photos, so it's tough to get noticed.
But at the same time, it's equal opportunity for all.
Right.
And you're able to get in there and try it and see whether or not you like it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking of this in terms of, like, being an actor. You don't have... Like, if you really wanted to, you could start up a YouTube channel and be an actor and just kind of, like, play the role of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there's no, like, middleman telling you that you can't do that. You know, it's like before, in the generation before us, you had that person, like, in the middle that was like, oh, no, you have to go through us before you can get on the set and you can get your name out there to the world. But now it's just, like, open access.
Yeah, definitely. And... I mean, there's avenues everywhere to get noticed and to get that kind of attention that you need to move up in the world. And, I mean, it's like you said, there's no one telling you can't. You just have to, if you have the passion for it, go for it. Don't let anyone else tell you that you can't. Don't let anyone sway you from what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have one life to live, and you're trying to make the most of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's passion-filled. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have something creative that you feel you can make money in or that you have interest in, go for it. Don't let people tell you otherwise. And
at the end of the day, you're always kind of... Now, this might be an overstatement, I guess we could say.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you're going to be able to do something that you're passionate for, you're always going to figure out a way to get the income to sustain that passion. So it's almost like worry about the passion first because you're at the end of the day you're going to eat. Or you're going to figure out a way to eat. It's like...
The survival.
It comes... The food at this point, now that we're living in the modern era that we're living in, is like secondary. The basic survival needs... whether like shelter, food, is kind of like a guarantee you're going to figure it out. So it's like, well, I might be, again, it might be an overstatement here.
Yeah. Well, like a good way to put it is like at the end of your life, what are the things you're going to regret? Are you going to regret not doing or pursuing podcasting or photo or acting or anything like that because you had a huge interest in it and you never pursued it and you decided to
Let it
follow the
go.
line. Yeah, let it go.
Yeah.
Like it's like you said, it's your life. If it's something that you want to do or you think that you can make some movements in and you're going to regret not doing it down the road, go for it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of cliche, but a lot of the people that like a lot of like successful people that'll run like podcasts or have YouTube shows or any of those things, most of them bring up the same point. It's all like at the end of their life, what would you regret the most that you didn't do? Do that. Or if you can do something all the time, or what's the way I'm saying it or trying to say it? If you could do what you love all the time, what would it be?
Say that again.
If you could do what you love all the time, what would it be? I think I'm saying that right.
Oh, I mean, a lot of this shit is just mindset.
Yeah, it is.
Because it takes an immense amount of fucking hard work, mental toughness, all the stuff you learn in like 3rd grade that they preach to you.
Yep.
Like, what is it? Determination, perseverance, hard work, all this shit to be able to do something in this line of work, whether it's a creative project or starting up a business, or really it comes down to putting something out there in the world that's different from the status quo. You have to have the mental, the mindset to be able to get that thing done.
Yeah. I mean that's the best way to put it. It's all a mental thing. You have to be able to want to push yourself and get out of the box, and I mean that's all what creative work is. It's standing out and not doing something that's the ordinary.
Yeah, and it's not glamorous either.
No,
not always.
Oh yeah, trust me. I mean, I know that firsthand. There's a lot of stuff that I've done that or dealt with in life that hasn't been great either. Like it wears you down and beats you up, but at the end of the day, like right around the corner, there might be something that like you might get your break.
Yeah, you need that like sliver of hope to keep going. Which brings me to, I'm interested to hear about this, and you don't have to open up and talk about it.
Oh, you're good.
But what would you say the biggest hardship was that you faced up until this point?
In terms of like photography or just in
anything,
life in general?
Life in general.
Gotta think about that. There was a lot of times where, and like I definitely don't make a living fully like strictly on photography. Like obviously I have a day job that I work, and the photo jobs that I get, some of them throw a little extra money in my pocket to fuel that fire. But there's some times where I would try and put a little bit more into the photo world, and then I would struggle a little bit because I'd either not be making bills or something like that. I mean, that can really be detrimental in some points, because you'll want to be doing some kind of shoot and you can't afford to. So it sets you back a little bit. I mean, it's a little silly to say that financials can hold you back, but sometimes
it's practical.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it can check you up a little bit.
I like this conversation because it's showing the realist to something that's idealistic.
Right.
Like you're having this balance of the financials and the passion, and it's just being realistic to yourself of like, you can't just go all in. And
no.
I hate that message of like, quit your day job, go pursue your passion, because it's not realistic. And it sets people up for failure. It really does. Yeah,
because there's more truths to it. I mean, sure, like the idea is you could quit your job and do anything, but that's not going to be necessarily the case all the time. Like you can try it, and who knows, you might make it. But the better part is like, can you do that? Can you survive? Or can you quit your job and survive?
Yeah, and you hear these stories about people doing that.
Like
These celebrities that, like, they quit and they move out to LA and they're, like, able to get these, like, movie gigs or whatever, and then they make it big the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives people a false sense of, I mean, yeah, it's possible, but it might only be, like, a 1% chance that could happen.
A lot of people are seeing, like, the glamorous success stories. They're not seeing the struggles, and the...
Exactly.
Like, they're not seeing the grinding half of it.
And they didn't see the 10 years prior to that blow up
well,
that they had to put in to get to that point.
Yeah, and, like, that's with any kind of creative thing. I don't think people really realize how long it takes for some of those people to get into the positions that they're in. Like, even some of the celebrities and, like, Hollywood, most of those people, sure, they may have, like, gone to Hollywood and, like, become a success story over in a year, but even those people, you don't know what they might have had to go through in the past, and, like, see if they have something they were trying, or they might have been struggling with something in the past. I think, I mean, you got a good point. There's always more to the stories.
Yeah, there is more to the story. And it's good to tell people and that's another thing of, like, podcasting, is it gives people the honest perspective of the individual and, like, what they're going through. Instead of just, like, the news, they are just highlighting the little sliver of the story.
Definitely.
And typically it's the glamour of it. And it can give people a false sense of reality.
Yep, definitely.
So to circle back around, that was why I brought up the question of, like, what kind of hardships you've gone through in your life.
I mean, with the photo, there's always been financial problems every once in a while. Obviously, since I work a full-time job, there's been some photo gigs that I've had to refuse, which can be tough. And
yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, that one project that you missed could have been the one thing
exactly. So, like, that can get to you sometimes. There was one photo gig that I refused that it was shortly after I left OCC, and it was from one of my professors happened to ask me if I wanted to or if I was available these couple of days, and I was like, no, I'm working. It was like a week notice, and I'm like, I wouldn't be able to. I'm sorry. Come to find out that couple of days he was in Spain doing this crazy commercial shoot,
and you didn't even know.
Didn't even know. He wouldn't tell me.
Oh my god.
So, like, that like broke my heart for, like, almost like 2 or 3 months, because I was like, man, I could have gotten in that, made a bunch of connections, but I don't know. At the same time, that kind of, like, put things into perspective a little bit.
Yeah, can't have it all.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And
why didn't he tell you?
That's just kind of the way he is.
Okay, we don't have to go into that at all.
No, I appreciate that professor significantly. He's taught me a lot of the things I know. So.
Oh, is that the same one that was critiquing you?
Right, that was the same one that broke me down and got me to build back up. So I have a lot of respect for him. It was just kind of ironic that I missed that same opportunity with him. But
another thing that, looking at this like a little bit of meta kind of way, do you know what that means? Like taking yourself out of the situation and, like, trying to see it objectively. Well, maybe this isn't objective, but it's kind of cool to see how that all played out, because maybe he thought that you were able to take all of that criticism. Like, maybe you receive things because, I don't know, it's the world telling you that, like, you can take it. You're able to use that hardship to get you to become a stronger person, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Definitely, because at that point I was always kind of a little bit introverted, and hearing opinions and stuff like that was always hard to hear. And then, like, after that breakdown point, I was a little bit more out of the box and could actually talk a little bit better and deal with way or dealing with talking with people and things like that.
Yeah, because, like, if you receive that criticism, you're like, okay, I've received the worst.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just, like, put yourself out there, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, definitely.
Trying to think of something or another hardship.
Now, this could be a little bit personal.
Yeah.
Again, just tell me not to. What was family like growing up?
That's not too personal. Family was okay. It wasn't great. Growing up, my parents were divorced, so I lived with my mom and my dad. I had like some visitation with my dad. Still love both my parents equally. There's no like hate or anything like that, but there was definitely a little bit of tension between the two. And
Between your parents? Or
yeah,
you and...
a little bit of both. I went full circle. There would be some tension
Okay.
between my two parents when I was growing up, and it would also project onto me. I would get some... So there was a little bit of trouble growing up. I also dealt with, I wouldn't say a ton of bullying, but definitely got some... I was definitely very unique growing up. I mean, you remember me from high school. I always stood out. I always had the eyeliner, and
Yeah.
I liked...
You were straight goth.
But at the same... And, I mean, that being that way kind of led to a lot of bullying and all the stuff that comes with it.
Even though you got all of that bullying, you still put yourself out there, even in high school. Because you were saying that, it wasn't until that critiquing from the professor that's when I started putting myself out there. You were still doing it when you were in high school.
Yeah, actually, it's true.
Prior to that.
Just not in... I never really thought about that. That's a good point.
So, I mean, maybe it was always with you.
Yeah, it's possible.
Maybe you just, like, took it in a more positive light after that critique from your professor.
Definitely.
Do you think family life had... It's interesting how you, like, talk about family and then you caveated into that. Do you think that those two things kind of play into each other?
A little bit. I mean, I think they definitely make for who I am today. I mean, I'm not perfect by any means. I don't think I am. But dealing with certain situations growing up definitely changed my perspective and could have affected me in ways that I don't really realize.
Like on a subconscious level?
Yeah. I mean, I dealt with depression and I went to some counseling and a lot of stuff like that. So I definitely had some depression issues growing up. And
Did you know it? Well, yeah, obviously you went to counseling.
Yeah. I mean, it was apparent to my mother, the one I lived with the most. So she was the one that brought me to counseling and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And it was... trying to think of a way to put it.
How old were you?
At that point, I was... When did I start doing counseling? It was well before I was a teenager, but I still went to counseling when I was 13, 14, 15. I think right up until before I hit high school was when I stopped doing counseling. So I went through it from elementary all the way through middle school and like a tiny bit of high school, and then that's when I stopped going.
Oh, okay.
So it was something I always grew up with, and it was I don't know, it was just part of me. I mean, I didn't really think anything of it. I just, at that point, I was so young, I didn't really realize what was going on.
We're kind of getting into an era where I feel like counseling's more open. Like, it doesn't have the stigma that it did maybe like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was... I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. For me, it was pretty uncomfortable because at that point, it was tough to open up to anyone. Even like my mom or the counselor I was talking to, it took them forever to finally like get me to talk about things and like go over stuff and do what I was there to be there for. And it was kind of getting a little sidetracked. I didn't even really realize like how much it probably affected me if I didn't go.
So it helped?
It definitely helped because I mean, if I was the same way at that point that I was today, I probably wouldn't be here doing this podcast or being a photographer or anything like that. Kind of being around that dealing with all those problems brought a lot of creativity out of me. Because one of the things I dealt with in counseling was they always wanted me to find an outlet for feelings and stuff like that. So a lot of people put their feelings towards art or any of that kind of stuff, something creative.
So it's not coincidental that you see a lot of like mental health stuff going on in the arts, creative arts.
Yep.
I could see that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, do you think chicken before the egg? Do you think the mental health's first and then they become the artist, or the artist is in them, so that causes you to have mental health issues?
Ooh, that's an interesting topic.
I do want to say a precursor to this. So again, not again. I come from a background with mental health stuff. I do that. That's actually my full time.
Gotcha.
I'm a nurse in like mental health stuff.
Okay.
So I do want to point out that like everyone deals with mental health. It's not just we're singling out artists.
Right.
Like mental health is just a part of life.
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone has anxiety. Everyone has depression in their life. So again, like that counselor is wise in saying that it's how you outlet those issues. I don't even want to say issues. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Is we shouldn't look at mental health, quote unquote, as being an issue. It's just like the way things are.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like for me, opening up and like not being able to express my feelings and everything like that, that was one of the biggest problems for me growing up. So I wouldn't talk much. I wouldn't talk about how I was feeling or anything like that. And they were always trying to get that out of me without me trying to, like, with me holding all that up, they were worried that I was going to lead to other things.
Even though they might have been the ones telling you not to express yourself.
Yeah, it was weird. Well, just like being able to find an outlet and let out some of those feelings and something creative was a constructive effort compared to where some other people go with that kind of stuff.
True. I mean, you could go down the road of drugs, alcohol.
Yes.
Shooting up heroin.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So.
I think we got a little sidetracked there, but.
No, that's good stuff. Super good stuff. So hitting home, though, back on the chicken before the egg, do you think it was the mental health and then the artist, or the artist and then the mental health?
I think it was a little bit of the artist before the mental health.
Saying that you were always the artist?
Yeah, because I drew a lot before, I drew a lot when I was a kid growing up, and then cameras came into the world, and I played around with cameras a lot before I went to counseling and everything like that.
Oh, okay. And then when your counselor was like, use an outlet?
I definitely put a little bit more effort into those, those couple of things. And
okay, makes sense.
I definitely utilized that fuel, as for lack of a better word, and put it towards those things a little bit more.
This gets deep. It gets real deep.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's not only your profession, being a photographer, but it's also an outlet in terms of like sustaining your emotional health. So it's like you kind of know that you're never going to let that go. Or if you do let it go, you're going to just fill it up with some other outlet. And hopefully it's not drugs or alcohol.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
So it's like you're kind of, as an artist, since you're saying that came first, it's almost like your destiny.
In a way, I guess that's a good way to put it.
Because it's inevitable.
Right.
You're always going to have that outlet because you're always going to be dealing with mental health.
Yeah. The times that I'm not doing photo or being, like, even playing around with cars as an outlet, when I'm not doing anything to keep my, like, the feelings and everything like that at bay, that's when I start getting my worst.
Oh, wow.
So, like, it is...
And you can tell?
Oh, yeah. Well, not just, like, me, but, like, even my girlfriend, Abby, for sake, she'll see, like, when I'm not doing anything, I get a little bit more, like, quiet and sad, and, like, all those feelings start showing a little bit more. So the times that I'm being a photographer and playing around with cars or anything like that, that's when I'm at my best.
And so when you're doing the photography itself, how does that make you feel?
Happy, definitely. Especially if I'm doing, like, if I'm learning and advancing with my camera and, like, the people I'm working with, or even the subjects that I'm working with. Like, if I check up on my photos every once in a while and realize that I'm improving, I mean, that makes me feel significantly better. And, like, it's rewarding. It really is.
Yeah. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Figure out your craft
Mm-hmm.
and find a way to outlet your emotions into it.
Yep. I mean, for what it's worth, it's not just, like, that's not just the reasons why I do that kind of stuff, but it definitely, I mean, that helps fuel the fire, and, I mean, that's passion, basically. I mean, you're putting your feelings, your emotions, and your hard work into doing what you love. You're going to, obviously, from one of the rewards is you're going to have a good feeling about it.
And you're going to have good work, too, at the same time. So that kind of leads us down another path of what are your reasons for photography? Or, photography. Have you ever thought about that?
I think I need a little bit more, like, give me an example. Like,
I guess this whole conversation has been about that, so maybe it's kind of, like, pointless to talk about that. I'm thinking more of, like, a mission statement. If you were to give a mission statement, are you familiar with mission statements?
A little bit.
So, I mean, in the business world, it'd be like what you're going to be doing to affect the world or, like, affect something. So, like, with photography, what would be your mission statement?
Gotcha. Okay.
Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't written anything down or, like, come up with, like, a defined.
Yeah, and this could be just up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely up
Change
in the air.
tomorrow.
Right. I mean, you look around in the world and you don't really notice, like, the beauty of certain things on a day-to-day basis. Like, I mean, you and me both growing up in Phoenix, it's a very small town, and you can see it all relatively quick. However, there might be a photographer that
drive through and in 5 minutes.
5 minutes take something crazy that you never even thought of and be like, holy shit, that's awesome. And, like, it's like, photography is your perspective and the way you see things, and, like, translating that onto a screen or a piece of paper or anything like that for others to kind of see the way you see the world. So, like, if I can, what's the best way to put it? Like, if I can help other people see certain avenues in a different way, then, I mean, that's definitely a step forward.
Like, changing perspective.
Right. Definitely changing perspective. And, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have, like, a defined mission statement. I love what I do, and, I mean, and I'm taking photos and posting them out there for people to see. So I'm taking stuff from what I see in the world and putting it out there.
Yeah, mission statements are lame.
Yeah, it's hard.
No. But, like, it comes from the heart. Like, your message is from your entire story. Like, we just went through it all.
Yeah,
and it's there. You can definitely tell, like, your passion for it, and it goes without saying.
Mm-hmm. Like, you're telling a story, and, I mean, that story is going to be constantly changing and constantly improving, and, I mean, even it can definitely take a turn downhill every once in a while, and, I mean, documenting all of that is always important.
Definitely. And it's going to be cool when you're 80 years old to look back at the entire experience through your photography.
Yeah. I mean, even looking back of, like, where I started, like, looking at stuff back in high school that I used to shoot, and, like, the way I've photographed and the way I've thought about things, like, is forever changing. Like, there's stuff that I've shot back in the past that I probably couldn't recreate now.
True, yeah.
So the world is forever changing, and so are we. So.
And it wasn't like better or worse. It just like how it was.
No, not necessarily. It was just I had evolved to something different. And
I think that's the biggest thing. Biggest takeaway for me is from like your story with perspective changing, is like it helps open your mind up to see things just as is, not place the judgment of better or worse, or like your opinion. I mean, obviously you're gonna have opinion, but like just trying to see photography as is, like, and maybe that'll help me or just like people in general, like, be open-minded to whatever possibilities are out there.
Yeah, definitely. I can't think of anything else to say about it.
Was this what you expected?
Yeah, I mean, no, definitely not, because I've, at least for me, like, I'm not a major talker, and I definitely can't imagine myself talking for, I don't even know how long we've been in here for.
It's been an hour and a half.
Holy
dude.
shit.
We've been ripping through.
Yep. So
it's been good.
Yeah, this is one of those things, though. You got to try it.
Definitely. Yeah. You don't know until you try it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was definitely fun.
So I guess that leads us to the end a little bit. But before we get there, I just need to hear your thoughts in terms of just like the world in general with social media.
Yeah.
Because we went there in the conversation, and to get your futuristic thoughts or projected trends on, this might be a little bit too much.
Just going real deep.
But where... I'll contextualize it and this I think is more for me than it is the audience.
Yeah, definitely.
Social media right now is becoming this like Goliath of just everyone is on it.
Yeah.
And everyone is consuming, especially Instagram. Like, there's no engagement anymore. You just like swipe through rapid fire, and you just like go blank to, again, personal opinion, but like there's not. And also on top of that, you're having a lot of businesses get on there too.
Yeah, it's a huge avenue for businesses now.
I was looking it up. It was like something crazy, like 75 to 90%. It's just businesses.
Yep.
And so it kind of like takes away from the creative elements as far as like the unintention. Like, people are just doing that for wanting to be creative. And wanting to express. Now there's like an intention as to why you're putting that content out there, whether it's like to sell or to like build status or build your following.
Right. Like, now it's no longer just you doing it for you. Now you're doing it for others and ways to make money. Yeah.
Not always to make money, but yeah, make money. So in terms of where social media is going, have you had any projected thoughts on like different avenues or different ways of getting your artwork out there? We'll start there.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. Just figuring out like ways of...
Because at the end of the day, you have to get your artwork out there to people. Is social media one thing that you use to get it out there?
Definitely. I mean, it's almost necessary at this point.
Necessary.
And I mean, that goes for better and for worse. It can definitely be a beast of a thing to try and get into and get noticed in, but at the same time, it's an awesome avenue to get your name out there.
And how has your engagement been in the social media world?
Lately, it's been a little silent. I've definitely taken a couple of steps back from social media, and at the same time, I'm also watching it like a hawk. I definitely don't post every single day. I definitely need to be. I know where I need to be, and I know where I am. And for the most part, I'm just kind of watching how people are doing and trying to get an understanding of where it's going, because social media is forever changing, and certain avenues are shrinking and other avenues are growing. There's all sorts of things that are happening in that realm, and I definitely don't think it's going anywhere. So it's...
you think it's here to stay?
Yeah, I definitely think it's here to stay, for better or for worse. It depends on the way you make it.
And what type of social media? What platform is here to stay?
I think everything. I mean, there's going to be certain things that are going to be growing and are going to be standing out there a little bit more. I definitely think podcasting is going to be something that's always relevant because a lot of people, even myself, listen to podcasts on our like daily commutes or walking around, even at work. Like it's something that's very easily listenable and something that you can do passively and not put all your focus into it all your time.
True. Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think podcasting is something that's very relevant. Video is another thing that's growing out there. I mean, there's not a ton of people that just buy cable for cable now. There's a lot of people who, like even myself, I don't have cable at my house. I have internet, and then I'll watch YouTube and Netflix, Amazon, all that stuff. So video is another avenue that's growing and is going to continue to grow.
On what platform?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. YouTube's, I think, is a little bit on the way out, but we'll see how that goes. It's hard to say.
And leads me full circle again to the original question is, do you see other avenues out there besides social media to get your artwork out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously face-to-face encounters are always going to be a major thing. I mean, if networking is, you don't just network on social media. You can also network in person through your phone, just and text messages or emails. I mean, there's always going to be other avenues of connecting. I just think social media is the most efficient right now.
Okay.
I don't really see anything popping up, like anything in the future that's popping up. But I mean,
that's another interesting thought. Is like what the future of where,
like if social media is going to get taken over by something else.
Yeah. Or at least like Instagram, Facebook's going to get taken over by a different social media.
Yeah. I mean,
something like that.
It's definitely possible. And I mean, even in just like the past year, you can kind of see what's like certain things are growing and certain things are shrinking. I think Instagram is slowly shrinking. And you're seeing Facebook get a little bit more involved, but that's kind of at a general standpoint. For photographers, Instagram's pretty relevant and a pretty major point because it's strictly photos and stories and all of that. There's no text.
That's a good point, yeah. And sorry for any of the listeners out there that was totally irrelevant. Because, I mean, this podcast is mostly about, like, the mental mindset kind of stuff and the storytelling. But I just bring that up because a lot of what we do as artists, you and I, is engagement, and there is a marketing element to it.
Definitely.
Because if you don't get your artwork seen, then it means nothing. It only means something to you. And at that point, then it's a hobby.
Yep.
But if you're trying to grow in terms of getting full-time in doing your craft, like the marketing element is important. The networking is important.
All of those take major roles in any of that.
So as an artist, I think it's important to know like where the awareness is going in terms of like what social media is out there is like, and it was good. It was good to hear your opinions on that, your perspective. So thank you for talking about that.
Yeah, no problem, man.
So to finish up, if you want to give people like a link as far as like what your social media is, any like a website, whatever, any way that we can connect to you online.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on Facebook, just Dalton Dobson, and I also run a page called Dobson Shutterworks on Facebook, which is just a strictly photo page. My main social media on my Instagram is Dobson_Shutterworks, and my email is daltondobsonphoto@gmail.com. And that's just about all I have.
All right, cool. Well, go check him out, guys. Super cool guy. Hope you enjoyed his story. And last but not least, the question that we have been ending on for the past couple of podcasts is, what does it mean to be human? I'm throwing a big one at you.
Oh, man. I think evolving. Humans have evolved from, I'm going real deep with this. Humans evolved from, a previous state. So, if we're not forever changing and improving, then what are we? That's the best way I can put it.
Glad to have you.
No
Bring
problem,
it
man.
in.
Yep.
Thanks for coming on the show.
No problem, man.
Over and out, Dalton Dobson. Go check him out on Instagram, Facebook, in real life. He's a cool guy. Thanks, everyone, and peace.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. Thanks again to Dalton for being on the show. We really appreciated your genuine perspective and insight. If you haven't already, give us a follow. You can find us at boho_hobo_ on Instagram and Twitter. Boho Hobo for Facebook, YouTube, and bohohobolifestyle.com is our website, where you can find everything from our podcast, our blog, our clothes, and more. We really got a lot of stuff going on the website, so go check it out if you haven't already. Kyle just posted a new blog called How to Master Stoicism in 5 Practical Ways. It's a really cool read. If you haven't already, go check out some of our blogs. It's really cool wisdom and tips on how to master your mindset and kind of start building more effective mental health strategies to help you through those tough times in your project or whatever skill you're trying to get better at. So, in other news, Kyle and I will be vending at a festival called Gather Outdoors. It's located in Monticello, New York. It's a new EDM music festival. We're pretty excited for this. It's going to be on Memorial Day weekend. So if you want to go check that out, that will be a cool festival to do to start your summer. I'm pretty sure that you can still get tickets, but it would be cool to see some familiar faces there. So if you're interested, go check it out. I'm pretty sure it's just gatheroutdoors.com, but it seems pretty cool. So we're excited to do that, and we'll be talking more about new clothes coming soon and festivals that we'll be vending at for the summer. So pretty exciting stuff. One last thing before we go. If you could, we would totally appreciate if you could give this podcast a review. The reviews help us show the podcast platforms that people are listening, and it helps our show up to people who are looking for new podcasts to listen to in the organic search results. So if you can send us a review, it will go a long way. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next episode. Peace.